Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of 10 to Life. With me, Annie, Elise, your true crime bestie. I'm here, I'm comfy, I am ready to talk to you about this case. Now, when I first heard about this case, how did I even hear about it? I think I was just reading online like different articles, and I was absolutely blown away because it's just a heartbreaking case. They all are, right? I feel like that's so cliche to say. Obviously, Annie, they're all heartbreaking cases. This one is just really, really difficult, and I don't even know the right word to describe it, guys. I'm like thinking about it, and look, I don't know if you can see this. Editors, zoom in if you can, but like the chills are chilling. So whether you went to school on campus, off campus, or if you didn't even go to college, it doesn't matter. But I think we can all understand and agree that as a college student, if you are going to a school on campus, you should feel safe on campus, right? You should be able to trust that there are law enforcements that are set in place so that if anything should go awry, someone will be there to help you. However, what happens when something does go wrong and you go to these said law enforcement agencies multiple times, but you are never taken seriously, and you feel as if you're almost now bothering them by asking them for help? And that's the premise of today's case. It deals with a self-proclaimed womanizer. It also deals with stalking and sextortion. You heard that right. It's one where not just one person or one set of authorities drop the ball either. It's one where many, many different people drop the ball. So guys, we are gonna jump right in. All right, guys, you know I talk to you about Beam all the livelong day because I'm so obsessed with it. I drink it every night. I've also talked to you guys about how I've gotten all my friends, all my family hooked on it, and actually a lot of you viewers. So what I'm gonna start doing is I actually had a lot of these people who are now hooked on it send me little testimonials, because maybe you believe me, maybe you don't, but you'll believe more testimonials because I'm telling you guys, like, I can't explain how good this product works. As a reminder, Beam Dream is a sleep tea. It tastes like this little goodness of hot chocolate right before bed, depending on what flavor you get. They have an abundance of flavors, but there's 0 added sugar. It's only 15 calories. It has all the good secret sauce ingredients in it: magnesium, melatonin, L-theanine, all the goodness, and you just sleep. A sound asleep, you stay asleep, you don't wake up in the middle of the night with all the million lingering thoughts. You don't wake up groggy like you do if you take Ambien and all these other sleep aids, which I have taken forever. I mean, it's the best. It is the best. So I'm gonna play one of these many testimonials that I will be playing for you just to tell you it is legit. People are obsessed. You need to try it. If you've ever had any trouble sleeping, if you've ever had any trouble staying asleep, Beam Dream is for you.
I have been drinking Beam tea every night with my wife as a pre-bed ritual since being introduced to it by Annie Elise. And I gotta say, it's some of the best sleep I've ever had. And when I wake up, unlike other sleep aids, I don't feel groggy or tired. So now it's something I look forward to drinking every single night. Thank you, Annie.
And right now, in addition to the already amazing discount that they are offering you with my code, you can get an extra 25% off plus a mystery gift valued at $35. I mean, it's discounts on discounts on discounts. The code is automatically applied at checkout. All you have to do is use my unique link, which I will put in the show notes for you. And the offer is valid from February 14th to February 21st. So go snag it while it lasts, guys. Even after this, I'm still going to be hooking you up with discounts. You know I am. It is so good, you will love it. In 2018, 21-year-old Lauren McCluskey was living the typical college life in Utah. Prior to college, Lauren had grown up in Washington with her parents Matt and Jill, and also her younger brother. When Lauren's parents found out that they were expecting a baby girl, they were beyond thrilled. They had at the time been working on getting doctorate degrees at the University of Berkeley, and they chose the name Lauren because they thought that it was just a very strong and beautiful name. When Lauren was just a year and a half old, her mom and dad were then offered tenured positions at the University of Washington. I mean, very, very smart, a just like power duo couple. One was an economics professor position for her mother, Jill, and a physics professor position for her father, Matt. So they decided with that to move their family nearly 1,000 miles away to Pullman, Washington. And that's where they eventually settled into a house that they built for their growing family. And that's when Lauren became a big sister to her little brother, Ryan. Now, Lauren was a fun-loving, sweet-natured kid. She was a bit shy at times, but where she really came alive was in sports, particularly track and field. And she didn't just love it, she was actually really, really good at it. In fact, during a Junior Olympics competition that she participated in when she was just 8 years old, she broke not just one record, but 3. And her dedication, her passion, and her success for track just really continued into her teenage years. All through that, though, Lauren really remained humble. And even though she was known as being a true star athlete through and through, she didn't like to brag about it. When anybody would compliment her or ask her about her wins, including the local newspaper, which did often, she would just quickly put the focus on the other girls on the team and how well they all did and how this was a team effort. She never wanted the spotlight. In high school, when Lauren wasn't practicing for track or studying or even spending time with her friend group, she would take her extra time to volunteer for the Humane Society, since she absolutely loved animals, and her favorite animal of all time was a cat. She loved cats. She also loved spending time with her whole family, including her grandparents, and one of her most favorite things to do was go on shopping trips to Target with her friends, which, amen, girl. I think any female watching this right now understands a Target trip is like the pinnacle of happiness, especially if you're alone and you're just cruising the aisles, no husband, no partner, no children, just like maybe get your Starbucks. It's like there's something that just hits different about Target, right? So when Lauren was getting to her senior year, tons of colleges, of course, wanted her to take part of their women's track and field team, which meant that she really had her choice of any colleges she wanted to go to. She had the pick of the litter, and also a full scholarship at that. And she decided to go with the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and that's where she wanted to pursue a degree in communications as well as continue on her track and field journey. So after Lauren made the nearly 11-hour journey south to the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, she slowly began adjusting to life as a college student. She felt a little bit intimidated by the other girls on the track team, but she continued to do her best and really just focus in on her studies. Initially, she remained a little bit shy and kind of even on the introverted side a little bit, but she did have a good friend with her named Alex Mumphrey, who was also her roommate. So Lauren slowly began to find her place in Salt Lake, and she even began attending Capitol Church, where she would sing. She was always encouraging people to go to church with her and really just took on a new kind of role in this town. Her faith was something that had always been very important to her, even growing up, and she was even a part of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Club on campus. So over time, Lauren really grew to love college life, and she truly blossomed into her junior year. She was no longer that shy girl she once was when she came into the school as a freshman. Instead, she became a really outgoing young woman with a true, bubbly, personable personality. She would even do a karaoke night with friends at a local bar. She would jump up on stage out of nowhere, do an open mic comedy routine. I mean, truly fearless. I could certainly never do that. I hate public speaking, as much as you may think that makes no sense. It's true. So she had this whole new kind of set of confidence. And even with this newfound confidence and her booming social life that kept her ultra busy, she still maintained a 3.77 grade point average. And she was set to graduate in the spring of 2019. Now, as you can imagine, Lauren was just beyond excited for her future and all of the opportunities that it held. She planned to move somewhere like San Diego, somewhere that had perfect weather because she was sick of the cold winters. She also wanted to now use her degree to land a job in either public relations or as maybe an academic advisor. She just knew that the prospects were really endless. So even though she really did love college, she was definitely ready to start her senior year so that she could move on to the next exciting chapter of her life. On Saturday, September 1st, 2018, Lauren texted her good friend Alex asking if she wanted to go to a new bar with her. The bar was called London Bell, and it was on Main Street in Salt Lake City. So London Bell had dancing, it had great cocktails, and it honestly was just kind of the place to be. It was known to attract a lot of people. So Alex agreed. She was like, yeah, I'm totally down, let's go. And the two got ready and then planned to go. Now, even though they were excited for this night out, they had planned not to go like too crazy. So after waiting in a really long line, they were finally let into this bar. But while they were waiting, Lauren couldn't help but notice the bouncer, the guy who was like guarding the door, letting people in and out. And she felt instantly attracted to him, not just due to his look, but just his overall confident demeanor. And she said that he even reminded her of Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. But before she could really say anything and attempt to start a conversation with him, it was their turn to be let in and head into the bar. And as soon as they got into the bar, it was packed. So they were a little bit overwhelmed by this crowd. It was certainly like shoulder to shoulder packed. But then out of nowhere, the bouncer, who Lauren liked, came up to them to help them find a spot through the crowd. Once they got seats and they settled in, Lauren couldn't help but just keep checking out the bouncer. And the feeling appeared to be mutual because he kept coming back to their seats to check on them, which we all know is code for trying to hit on her, trying to come in and talk to her. So Lauren ended up writing her number down on a napkin. And then she told Alex that if they saw the bouncer again, she was going to give him that napkin. That would be the sign. That would be, the clear indication that this was meant to be. This was also, though, just completely and totally out of her character for her because she had never done anything so bold before, especially with a guy. She had a certain confidence about her and she was definitely personable, but this was like next level. Typically, she would see a cute guy at a bar and hope that he would come up to her. But this time, she figured that she would take the initiative and not miss out on the opportunity. However, the bouncer didn't come back, so after a few minutes or so, the girls decided to head out because they didn't want to go too crazy, as I mentioned, and they were now ready for bed. So they got up, out of their seats, ready to head out, and the bouncer popped up and got really close to Lauren, even holding her shoulder. So Lauren felt a bit flustered and then just kind of quickly plopped the napkin with her number into his hands and then hightailed it out of the bar with her friend Alex before she even had a chance to think about what she had just done. Kind of like, here's the napkin, I'm out of here, kind of embarrassed and just hightailed it out, right? Not knowing what would happen, the next morning at church, Lauren was so excited to tell Alex that the cute bouncer had actually texted her. And they had made plans to go to a climbing gym later that day so that they could hang out and get to know one another. The bouncer was 28-year-old Shawn Fields, and he was a student at Salt Lake Community College, where he was studying to get his associate's degree in computer science, and then he worked part-time at the bar as the bouncer. So later that afternoon, Lauren met up with Shawn at that climbing gym. He had roses in hand for her. That scored him some major brownie points in Lauren's eyes, and it was just kind of the kickstart to something really great. And the date went so well that the two of them then later went to dinner with some of Shawn's friends afterwards. So now Lauren was really on cloud 9. The date went well, she was meeting some of the friends, she was just so excited, and she called her mom Jill to tell her all about Shawn. And while Jill was happy that Lauren was happy, she did feel a little bit uneasy that her daughter was dating somebody who was almost 30, because Lauren was still in college. However, her mom just figured that Lauren knew what she was doing, and she didn't want to interfere or kind of be the wet blanket to rain on her parade. So as the following days went on, Lauren now seemed to be just infatuated with Shawn. But quickly things started to seem a little bit off about their relationship. Like there wasn't any casual dating or even the getting to know each other stage, because Shawn was now spending the night at Lauren's dorm almost every single night. Lauren was on the taller side, and Shawn was also big and tall, and her bed was a twin-size bed, so it was a tight squeeze as you can imagine. But aside from him just being in her dorm every night, things continued to get stranger and stranger. See, Lauren seemed to no longer be making decisions for herself. When she would talk to friends, she always started out by saying, he this, he that. And this would happen anytime it came down to anything that she was going to wear, anything that she was going to do. It was just like, well, Shawn this, Shawn that, all of these things. She'd also get visibly nervous and anxious when she was trying to text him back in a timely manner, texting him back quick, because she didn't want him getting mad at her for taking too long. She even went as far as to have a friend take over her phone if she needed to while she was driving, so that she wasn't texting and driving, but so that she was texting Shawn back in a timely fashion. And it was odd because that fear mentality started to trickle into when she was getting her makeup on and doing her hair for the dates that she had with Shawn, because she would go so fast as she could so that he wouldn't get upset. As Shawn's controlling nature just progressively got worse, he would blame his behavior on his past, saying that one of his exes cheated on him, and so he had problems trusting in a relationship. And honestly, it was showing. Most of the time when Lauren would answer a phone call from him, he would just berate her with questions regarding who she was with, what she was doing, just all the things. Shawn didn't want Lauren going anywhere without him either because he was afraid, apparently, of other guys being there and other guys hitting on her. He even went as far as to give her pepper spray to use in case a guy started coming on to her. And he also thought that she should carry a gun on her, just in case. And he loved to talk about guns. So Lauren's friend Alex was now pretty uneasy about Shawn, and was especially upset after he once freaked out on Lauren, saying that she had to have been cheating on him because she wasn't answering her phone, when in reality her phone had just died and she didn't get a chance to charge it. But instead he was just accusing her of cheating on him. But Lauren assured Alex that things would settle down after a while, and she made excuses, saying that basically Shawn would get past his trust issues once he really got to know her, and once he really got to understand that there was nothing to worry about, that he could trust her. But then, after just a few weeks of dating, things began taking a physical toll on Lauren. She was now losing weight, and she was physically drained all of the time from picking Shawn up from work in the middle of the night. And on top of that, she was mentally drained from having to constantly keep up with Shawn's demanding and controlling behavior. However, all of that being the root cause of it was really just an assumption by those around her who cared about her, who saw what was happening, because she still would never speak badly about Shawn, and she was head over heels for him. Lauren's friends were so concerned that they ended up going and talking to their campus housing staff because they wanted to talk about Shawn and how he was always staying over and how he just didn't seem like a good guy. However, nothing was done about their concerns, and Lauren and Shawn just continued dating, and he continued coming around. And then he started making friends with other people in the campus housing building. A couple of months into their relationship, in the beginning of October, Lauren was wrapping up schoolwork and she was getting ready to head back to visit family for fall break. And that's when she found Shawn's ID. However, it didn't say Shawn. It said Melvin Shawn Rowland. And Melvin wasn't 28 years old like she thought he was, even though he went by the name Shawn, which was his middle name. Not a big deal. But the big deal was his age. He wasn't 28 like he had said. He was actually 37 years old. So Lauren didn't know what to think, so she hightailed it out of there and left for Pullman, Washington. While she was home and hanging out with one of her friends, she decided that she was going to look up Shawn, or rather Melvin. Because up until that point, she really didn't know a ton about Shawn, other than his job, his future aspirations to work in computer sciences, and that he had moved to Utah from New York. But after Googling Melvin, which is how I will refer to him from here on out, Lauren was in total and utter shock. It turned out that Melvin had a very, very dark past, and he was trying to cover it up. And there was one thing that Melvin hadn't lied about, though, and that was that he did, in fact, grow up in New York. He was adopted, but the couple who adopted him were a bit older, and they died when he was young. So he was then taken in by the state of New York, and he was placed in a group home. Eventually, he went to a private school in Boulder, Colorado, where he graduated high school. And after graduation, he moved back to New York and attempted to get assistance from the state, but he was denied due to his age. So then he moved to California into a Buddhist institute in Berkeley. Afterward, he got a job and he went to Salt Lake Community College, where he got his CNA license and landed a job at the VA. During that time, he went to the University of Utah, where he wanted to work towards becoming a doctor. Now, Melvin's past history really began in September 2003, when he was just 21 years old. He was in an online chat room talking to a 13-year-old girl claiming to be a virgin. So he made plans to meet up with her to have sex, but when he went to pick her up at that local school parking lot, he was met with a car filled with undercover police officers. So that was the first time that he was put on the police's radar. But shortly after, he was in trouble yet again. That same month, he pressured a 17-year-old girl who he met online to let him come over to her house when her parents weren't home. And that is where he escalated to sexual assault. He was charged for both crimes, and in 2004, he was convicted of a felony count of attempted forcible sexual abuse, and also enticing a minor over the internet. For the abuse charge, he was given up to 5 years in prison, and the other charge was a concurrent term of up to 15 years in jail. So all of that meant that this whole time, Lauren had been unknowingly dating a registered offender, somebody on the registry. His first opportunity for parole happened in 2012, and during his hearing, the judge talked to him about his past and how he failed to pass an offender program that he was supposed to take part in back in 2010. And the reason he failed this test was due to him failing to make progress, which truthfully, he didn't seem the least bit remorseful for what he did. On top of that, he apparently had a knack for lying. He would lie about what he had done to get him into prison in the first place, and he lied and manipulated an employee in order to get on the internet. He also didn't seem to hold back on his desires regarding taking advantage of young, vulnerable girls. The judge did talk to Melvin about how he did seem to make progress during the next program, though, and he asked him about other women that he had taken advantage of.
We received a report from IPP. They indicated you re-entered sex offender treatment down in San Juan, August 2nd, 2011. Although you had some resentment toward the therapist and the program and everyone down there, you was able to work through things, and you successfully completed the program in April. They report that you gave full disclosure. You admitted to having a sexual attraction to teenage girls and adult women who were vulnerable. I guess that's the kind you find on the internet. I don't know. Stated you probably have a problem with pornography, masturbation, criminal thinking errors, and all of those things combined led you to your victims. They didn't tell me, they said full disclosure, but they didn't tell me how many victims you have. So I'd like you to give me kind of a idea of what we're looking at victim-wise.
Is that including the women I dated in college, or just
women that you felt you took advantage of?
I would say every female that I came across dating or met on the internet. I'd say every woman I've met or that I came across, that I used my manipulation tactics to get what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. So how many did you out and out like the one young lady?
Like Rachel?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not like that, but me being a womanizer, I use other tactics to get what I wanted with them. I'd say some similar to Rachel. I'd say two
others.
But I see it in general, just how I manipulated and used women in general.
How many women in general did you convince to have sex with you by manipulation?
That I come across with and I had sex with. I got locked up at 22, and my sexual experience, I'd say about 50.
Okay.
Melvin was then asked about his plans if he were to be given parole. He said he hoped to go to Texas to meet up with some friends from college who were planning on letting him stay with them. He talked about how he intended on getting a job, going to church every Sunday, and then ultimately working toward moving back to Colorado, where he went to boarding school. He wanted to help his two younger sisters who were having issues in New York, too. One of them was homeless, and one of them was having serious problems at home with a relationship. So he wanted to work toward getting them with him, safe in Colorado. And the judge seemed to really like what Melvin was saying, but said that he would recommend to the board that he be transferred to a halfway house first. And the judge ended the hearing by basically saying, "We'll see."
Only time's going to tell, and the therapist put that right in his report.
I know.
He doesn't know whether you're just blowing smoke, and you're smart enough, you know what you had to do to get out. So we'll find out soon enough, because once you hit the street, if you start doing the same things, if you come back, you know where you'll spend the rest of your life. So
for me, I got locked up. I caught my charge at 22. My speak.
Uh-huh.
I caught my charge at 22. I got locked up at 23, and I'm 31 now. And I'm united with family, and the only family I have is my two sisters. I know I have that capability of reoffending, but again, it's something I'll have to prove. But
you're a smart guy, and if you use that brains, it'll keep you out of here. Okay? Because I don't, not that I don't like you, but I don't want to see you again, because if I do, that means you've failed.
Therapist said the same thing.
Okay. Good luck to you.
So Melvin's charming and rather convincing plans landed him on parole in July of 2012. But he didn't stay out long. And that's because he started watching explicit content, if you get what I'm saying, just 2 months later. And this violated his probation. So he stayed in jail for 1 more year and then was released the following year in September 2013. And he stayed out of trouble for a little while, until 3 years later in February of 2016, when he got caught arranging sexual encounters on social media. So 14 months later, in April of 2018, he was given the opportunity for parole once again. This was after completing yet another offender program. And part of his parole was no use of social media whatsoever, absolutely not, full stop. But Melvin was once again out, and this time living in a halfway house in Salt Lake, where then he went on and got a job as a bouncer at a local bar. Now this all makes sense as to why he was now spending all of the nights at Lauren's dorm. He didn't want her to know about his past or that he was living at a halfway house. So needless to say, as Lauren's discovering all of this, she was just in major disbelief at what she was finding out about her boyfriend. Not only had she been dating somebody who was really much older than her and also going by a different name, she was also dating a registered offender who spent over a decade in jail and was currently on probation. So Lauren knew that she needed to end things with Melvin, and she needed to do so fast. She told her parents and her friends that she was going to break up with him. But she also kind of felt like her hands were tied a little bit because she was letting him use her car while she was at home for fall break. So she wanted to wait until she got back to her apartment. While she was at her apartment, she called Alex to really give her the download on what was going on, tell her what she found, and to get her advice on how she should go about ending things with Melvin. And she was trying to figure out a solution quickly because that evening, October 9th, she was supposed to go to a friend's wedding and bring Melvin as her date. And being that he had her car, she didn't really think it was a good idea to text him. But then she realized that the next option was him showing up later to pick her up for the wedding. So Alex thought that the best option would be to not go to the wedding and instead meet up with Melvin somewhere like a restaurant where people would be, a public place where in case things were escalated, there would be a lot of people around. But Lauren ended up having Melvin come to her dorm that evening. The tensions were at an all-time high, and Lauren revealed to Melvin that she knew everything about his past. But he made excuse after excuse, claiming that he was framed by some teenage girl that he met at a party. And he also claimed that the only reason he pled guilty was because he had to, which, as we already know from his 2012 parole hearing, that wasn't the case. And Lauren could see right through the lies, and she wanted him gone, out of her life. But Melvin would not leave, and he even stayed the night. So at this point, Lauren wanted out, but she still felt trapped. And Melvin still didn't seem to get the hint that she wanted to end things the next morning. So he took her car out for the day while she claimed to have track practice. Really, though, that was just her way of getting away from him. And Melvin caught on to this. And apparently that was what he needed to kind of get the message that she was done with him. Like, by lying about track practice, he realized, oh, she's trying to get rid of me. Because later that afternoon, a random number messaged Lauren saying, "Why'd you break up with the big guy? He really loves you." And then some other number messaged her letting her know that Melvin was so upset about her and about the breakup that he couldn't even drop off her car. So they would just do it for him. Then those text messages escalated, and they continued to get worse and much colder. Some of the messages even started including telling Lauren to take her own life. So Lauren was getting pretty freaked out, and rightfully so. And what made it worse was that even though she didn't know Melvin for very long, she had a pretty good idea of how he texted. You see, oftentimes his text messages were filled with spelling errors and grammatical errors. And that's exactly how these text messages that she was receiving were filled with. They had all sorts of errors, even though these texts were supposedly from his friends. So when Lauren realized that it must have actually been Melvin sending the messages, she was kind of afraid of what he might do next. I mean, clearly he was unstable, at best. So she called her mom, and she told her about the entire situation, and she asked what she should do, especially when it came to getting her car back safely. So her mom, Jill, was really concerned for her daughter, and she told her that she would contact the campus dispatch for her.
I'm worried that he's dangerous. He was lying to her, and he's actually a sexual offender, and lied about his age and things like that. I would just like someone to accompany her.
I will give her a call. Did you want me to give you a call back or?
Yeah, if you could give me a call back, that'd be good.
Okay, what was your name?
Jill.
So the dispatch called Lauren to set up a plan.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable with him doing that? I know your mom was really concerned about it.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay, because if it's all right with you, I mean, we're here 24/7. I'm super cool. You could come hang out here and have him drop it off here.
Shortly after, Lauren called back and asked if she could get a ride to go meet Melvin for the car because he ended up switching plans for the drop-off. And the dispatcher happily agreed to the plans and then called Jill back to let her know that Lauren was okay.
So thanks so much. I just wanted to make sure that was happening, because I feel like he has a little bit of control over her.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
that something bad could happen.
But unfortunately, getting her car back wasn't closing the relationship chapter for Melvin. He continued sending cryptic text messages, still trying to just pretend to be a friend. And a couple of days later, on October 12th, a message said that he took his own life and that it was all because of what Lauren did to him. Now, Lauren didn't want to go back and forth via text message. She just wanted all of the text messages and the harassment to stop. So she called the campus dispatch again, this time seeking even more help.
I got a text about, asking if I wanted to go to his funeral, and I think they're trying to lure me somewhere.
The campus police opened up an investigation, but said that they couldn't really do much since Melvin wasn't really doing anything too threatening when it came to her life. But that all changed the following day on October 13th.
I'm being blackmailed for money. It's a photo of me and my ex. They're threatening to send it out to everyone, and she's asking for $1,000.
Before she even called campus police, she sent the money. I mean, at that point, Melvin was threatening Lauren, but even with the evidence, the campus police didn't really do much to de-escalate the situation. In fact, an officer told her that Melvin seemed like a decent guy who didn't have anything on his record other than a traffic ticket. So Lauren told him that Melvin was not a pretty good guy, and rather, he was an offender. And get this, the officers had looked up somebody else with the same name, and therefore they weren't even looking at the accurate history of Melvin, of the right person. So Lauren felt defeated and just extremely anxious awaiting Melvin's next move. She didn't know what else to do because seeking help from the campus police didn't do anything. So she contacted the Salt Lake City Police Department, but they also weren't any help, and they transferred her back to where she started with the campus police.
I called 911 because I was just concerned, and I wasn't sure. I thought it might help speed things up. Do you know when an arrest would be made?
You can talk to an officer if you want. I can arrange that if you want that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
The detective told her that she wouldn't be back to work for a few days, not until October 23rd. So she told Lauren to call the campus police again if at any point that weekend she received anything cryptic from Melvin, which Lauren did end up having to do as she continued to receive messages. She also sent messages to the detectives regarding Melvin's criminal past, which, why was she having to do all of that? Why weren't the officers and the detectives on the case doing their due diligence? But the thing was that the campus police were not really doing anything. They never even went to talk to Melvin. Lauren felt so alone with all of it, and she even called her mom to tell her that she felt like she was bothering the campus police. Then on Friday, October 19th, Lauren decided to go to the Lake Effect bar downtown with Alex to try to just get out of the dorm, get her mind off of things, have some fun with her friend. She told Alex that she hoped someday when she was married she could just look back and laugh at all of this and laugh about what was going on with Melvin. But that wasn't how she was feeling at the moment. She was feeling stressed, and she was feeling nervous about Melvin, who was now a loose cannon. That same day, campus police began the investigation over the explicit photos that Melvin was threatening Lauren with. They reached out to Lauren asking for all of the information so that they could determine if Melvin was acting alone or acting with somebody else. After that weekend, on Monday, October 22nd, somebody who said that they were the deputy chief on campus texted Lauren to go to the police station. Now, Lauren had the common sense to realize that the text was yet again just another ploy from Melvin, trying to get her to go to a location. So she contacted the campus police, who told her it wasn't them that sent the message, and she should not respond. So Lauren spent that day like any other day. She was attending her classes, she was spending time with friends, and she was getting things done. Little did she know that Melvin had been lurking on campus all day looking for her, and he was also carrying a very small black bag. In fact, that was something that he had been doing for the past several days. One of the days, he walked around with a Deadpool costume on, and he was stalking Lauren. I mean, just a true creep through and through. So after her last class of the evening, Lauren walked back to her dorm talking to her mom on the phone at 8:20 p.m. The conversation was overall light and it was positive. Lauren was talking about how she was excited to finish up a project and how she was looking forward to her future. But then all of a sudden, Jill heard Lauren yelling, "No, no, no," and Jill heard Lauren's phone drop and her being dragged away. So her mom, Jill, was sent into a complete panic and kept the phone going, while her dad, Matt, called 911. The police sent out a message saying that a student had been kidnapped at the university, and that is when the search began. While Jill and Matt were on the phone with 911, a female student picked up the phone and said hello to Matt, saying she found the phone on the ground, along with a bunch of other belongings. Matt asked the girl to stay put until the police arrived, and then a description of Melvin was soon put out. Witnesses also said they heard a gunshot, and then a shell casing was found. Tons of the officers from all over the area were now at the scene, and they were all looking for Lauren. And then shortly after, Lauren was found. She was found dead in the back seat of a silver Buick, and she was in the North Campus parking lot. She was bleeding from her ear and her mouth, and she had been shot 7 times. Melvin had borrowed that car from somebody. He had waited around all day, stalking Lauren, just waiting for the perfect time to strike. Then he grabbed and dragged her into the car, drove off to the north lot, and then he shot her to death. Just a few minutes after Melvin shot Lauren to death, he fled the scene on foot to a different part of the campus where he called a woman that he had recently met on a dating app, and he asked if she could pick him up. He told her that he had just finished with a workout and that he wanted to hang out with her. So this unnamed woman came and picked him up a little after 8:30 p.m. And get this, the two of them actually went on a date. And Melvin was acting really casual, as if the events prior didn't even happen. They went to dinner, they saw the Utah State Capitol building, and then they went back to this woman's place. In the meantime, police had put out a profile on who they were looking for to the public. The university had also told all of the students to remain inside until the suspect was detained. So after Melvin was done hanging out and showering at this woman's house, she dropped him off at a local coffee shop, which I'm curious why she wouldn't have dropped him off just at his house, but in any event, she dropped him off at the coffee shop. And it turns out, no big surprise, he was lying to her about his name and age, just like he did to Lauren. And when she got back home, she saw Melvin's photo, and she saw that police were actively trying to find him, and that he was last seen being picked up by a silver Sonata on campus. So the woman realized, based on the description and the photo, that the man that they were looking for was the same man that she had just spent time with, had gone on a date with. So she went to the police station and said that the name didn't match up or the age, but that everything else did. And this again was because he had lied to her about his name and age. Now the woman coming forward was great for police because they now had an idea of where to look for Melvin. But not long after he was spotted, he took off running on foot towards the Trinity AME Church in downtown Salt Lake. So the police swarmed the church with their guns drawn. And they even found some people who were behind the church, and they told them, lift their hands, come forward, because at the time they didn't know that one of those men wasn't Melvin. He was actually the associate pastor of the church, Daniel Stalling, and he was with his 4-year-old son and another member of the church, and they had no idea what was going on. They were just working on stuff for the church, and his son was absolutely hysterical. And once police realized that they had the wrong guy, they heard a loud noise coming from inside the church. So they burst open, entering the church doors that were clearly tampered with to gain entrance by Melvin, and that's when they found Melvin. He was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Melvin had no connection to the church, so why he chose there to end his life is a complete mystery. Pastor Daniel said, "My first thought was maybe he wanted to make it right with God. Whatever the case may be, maybe that's why he chose to come here. Out of all of the places he could have chosen to go, he came here. I don't know." Now, you would think that that would be the end of the case, right? I mean, the suspect ended his life, Lauren's body was found, so at that point you would think case closed, justice was served. But that is far from the case. That morning, the University of Utah canceled all classes in order to deal with the aftermath and to let the students have time to mourn. Later in the day, the university police chief, Dale Brophy, spoke with reporters. He said that the officers were unable to find Melvin leading up to the shooting. But it came out later that nobody from the university police actually ever even looked for Melvin in the first place, even with Lauren reaching out multiple times a day leading up to her death. The chief also told reporters that Melvin walked away from his halfway house, which was also an incorrect statement that the university had to correct later on. And it kind of seemed like the chief was just lost on the matter and just kind of trying to do damage control at this point. The following day, on October 24th, the school put together a candlelight vigil for Lauren, and hundreds of people gathered to honor her life, including her parents, Jill and Matt. Now, what's really interesting is that through all of this, it was found out that the gun that Melvin had, he actually had borrowed from a friend of his named Nathan. He told Nathan that he wanted to borrow the gun so that he could take Lauren shooting, take her to the range. But Nathan said that after he lent the gun to him, he kind of just fell off the grid. He stopped texting him back. Finally, he heard from Melvin, and Melvin had lied and said that him and Lauren were stuck in Moab, Utah. And then he just stopped returning those text messages altogether. And the rest, tragically, is history. Now, because of this, there was a lot of controversy, and people were thinking that Nathan needed to be held accountable since it was his gun and he had lent it out, and apparently he had obtained it not really legally either. He had actually asked a friend to buy it for him in the month that Melvin and Lauren started dating because he had been generally discharged from the Army and he wasn't sure if he would have been able to get a gun on his own. So with that, Nathan was charged on March 13th, 2019 for illegally getting the gun in the first place. Nathan publicly expressed how bad he felt and that he truly had no idea what Melvin's true plans were with it. And then that June, he pleaded guilty and was given 3 years supervised release. In addition to all of this and bills that were filed, foundations that were created, there was a pretty big lawsuit that was filed as well because the university proved to be incompetent. They weren't following up on any of the tips and the worries and the concerns that Lauren and her family were expressing. They said they were, but then they didn't. And so finally, 2 years after Lauren's death, her parents won their lawsuit. A settlement agreement was made in the lawsuit, which rewarded them $13.5 million. The university president stated, "The university acknowledges and deeply regrets that it did not handle Lauren's case as it should have, and that at the time, its employees failed to fully understand and respond appropriately to Lauren's situation." Although there was some justice and accountability, Lauren's family and friends are just left with memories of Lauren now. Her death also caused quite the ripple effect on college campuses across the country. It's a shame that it took her murder for so much change to then be enacted through the new policies and foundations. And truly, I'm disgusted with how this case was handled. Lauren and many others reached out to authorities multiple times, and nobody seemed to take her problem seriously. It was as if they had something better to do or more important to do, and for that, Lauren's life was taken away from her. The fact that Melvin was given so many chances in life and he continued to treat women the way that he did is just beyond frustrating because Lauren should still be here today. She should be somewhere amazing and warm like San Diego like she wanted, doing her dream job. But because she wasn't taken seriously by the people whose job it was to protect her, she never got to reach that dream. And I'm curious to know what you guys think. How do you think things could have been handled differently and better to where this could have been avoided? It is a horrible, disgusting tragedy. Thank you for tuning into today's episode and hearing Lauren's story. Until the next one, guys, stay safe. Bye.